Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. I will tell you what I'm doing, but I'm going to get started and show you and talk about the process. I am obviously making cards. I am taking 10 sheets of 8.5 by 11, 110-pound cardstock, and I first scored it with the 8.5 side at the top at 4 1/4, and now I'm cutting those in half at 5 1/2. So they're already scored. It just sort of saves you a step. And then after I do that, then I am going to take my bone folder and do my best to burnish them. I try to make sure that they're folded nicely and then just give it a good swipe and make sure it's nice and straight. And so we have our card bases. So what I am doing is I am making 20 cards to give to a veterans home. I drive by this home and it is beautiful. And I thought at Memorial Day, you know what, it would be nice if I did something for the residents. Thinking, okay, maybe there's 20 or 30 residents. Well, holy moly, there was 100, just about 100 residents. So anyhow, I am cutting down some of card stock to cover the bases. What I first do is make a square. I add the two figures together. I wanted the measurements to be 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, so that was 9 1/2, I think. So I cut it 9 1/2 square and then cut 4 3/8 up to 4 1/8 up to 5 3/8. So this one piece was not the best paper. Obviously, you see it's crumpled. So I'm trying to see if I can use them all, and even the crumpled ones, once we cover it with paper, it won't be that noticeable. So I'm using ATG, and because they're going to residents in a veteran's home, I want to make sure it stays on, the paper stays on. I don't want it to fall apart. So I'm using glue on the outside. I'm using the Designer Dries Clear glue from the Art Institute Glitter, Art Glitter Institute, something like that. So I am going to just continue, and I'm doing it assembly line. I find that if I'm making several cards at once, it is much easier to do assembly line. You're only picking up the glue bottle once, you're only picking up the ATG once. In this case, I'm doing it in batches of 5, so I'm picking it up 4 times. But, you know, it saves some motion. So I feel like I'm dealing a deck of cards there. So just I'm adding the ATG on the inside and the liquid glue on the outside. I'm sure that'll help keep it from coming off. Now, it is the slightest of margins. I'm using A2 size cards. So after I found out there was 100 residents, I sort of freaked out and thought, can I make 100 cards? I don't even have any patriotic paper. I called up my friends from the Paper Stash Smash and some other card making friends and said, help. I sort of bit off more than I can chew. I'm freaking out a little. Can you help? And so 5 people joined in to help. My friend Sheila, my friend Annette, my friend Michelle from a creative operation, my friend Michelle Hale from East Bay Stamp Chick, and my friend Christina from Bun Fuzzle Boutique. You'll see that I do a lot of digitals, and I love her digitals. And she had actually, and I didn't use them in this case, she had actually released a free digital a couple of months ago. It was a Patriotic Gnomes, and I had made some patriotic cards at that point in time. You know, it just occurred to me, why didn't I use some of those gnomes? But I think my other friends might be using them, and that's okay. I'm going to interrupt my story to tell you I am using a sheetload of cards. Crafty Al has a YouTube channel, and she designs almost every month a card sketch and a recipe on how to make cards. And so you might have seen it written on the sheet of paper. I'm trying to see if I have that. But I used the sheet load of cards. Now I had to adjust the measurements because I have that blue base on there. I don't think she had an extra color on there, so I just had to adjust it. That's why those three don't really have as much room. I had a scrap piece left over, and this one I adjusted a little bit more. I'll link it in the description box what the sheet loads were, so you can go to her channel and find out how to get the recipe and make your own sheet load of cards. I like to use sheet loads if I have to do a lot of cards. I also, so the paper that I'm using was from either Cortabella or Echo Park. It was a digital. So all this I had printed out because, like I said, I didn't have any Patriotic paper. I thought, again, if I'm doing 5 or 10 cards, I can find some blue stripe, red stripe, and I actually had some red, white, and blue oceany stripe paper that I thought would be perfect. Well, again, freaked out, so I looked through digital files. There were some on Etsy that I was going to use, but I wanted ones that had sentiments and paper at once. Not that they were that expensive, but I didn't feel like designing sentiments, so when I put in a search, I found this through the Echo Park company. So again, I am adjusting all of the measurements from the sheet load of cards just to make it work with what I have going on. When I cut the paper down into those squares, the 9.5 by 9.5 squares, so I could get 4 sheets of paper out of it, I had all these long strips left over of the solid cardstock. So I was looking for some sheet loads that used some extra cardstock in long, thin strips. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm cutting down some extra paper. I wanted something that wasn't so busy because that flower paper on the left-hand side was fairly busy. And actually, to be honest, it wasn't my favorite card because the paper, and once I put the sentiment on, it really was busy. But, whoops, but that's okay. It still was okay. It's still a pretty card, and I was happy that I could use some flowers. So I'm just adding these pieces onto the strips. It's I don't want to say it's tedious, it's repetitive, but that's how you get to do cards pretty quick. So I put these on here, and then after I put these 2 strips on, I lay the pattern paper onto my card base. I have to cut this off so it fits. And then I realized I really did it in the wrong orientation. But I'm going to glue this down anyhow. I had to cut it down a little bit more. And then I figure out, oh, that's where I'm going to put a design. So here, look, watch. I switch it around and say, oh, duh. If I just put them on the short side, these would all fit because I was trying to make it fit on the long side. But anyhow, live and learn. So I'm just really eyeballing these down. It was a cute design. I was happy that I was able to use that flowery paper. I just thought it was pretty. All right, cutting that all down. And then I'll just add these to the front. And at the very end is when I finally figure out what to do with the sentiment. Again, it was looking a little bit busy. So I will go back and finish that. Anyhow, I'm very thankful for all of the ladies that decided to help me out. It made us realize, or made me realize at least, that, there's still time. If you want to make cards for the veterans home near you, or even just a retirement home in your area, or a school, or I'm sure there's groups somewhere, And if you feel like it's too many for you to do yourself, put a call out and ask your crafty friends or even your non crafty friends who can help. Can anybody make cards? And even if they're not good at making cards, maybe they could help you cut out card bases. Or maybe they could help with the expense and go get the card bases or the envelopes and help you out. It's a fun thing to do, and I think all of us ladies enjoy doing it. And oh, not just ladies. Like I told you, my friend Christina from Bumfuzzle Boutique was joining in. Her kids are going to do this, so it's not just adults. And why not? What is wrong with having kids help give to veterans in your neighborhood? Uh, I showed her a couple of the cards that I had used the Bumfuzzle gnomes on, and she's like, okay, got it. So, I'm sure the residents will be happy no matter what they get, even if it's just a plain card or a little kid drawing a picture of a star. How much fun would that be? And I can't wait. I'm sure I can drag my husband into this so he can drive, so we can go to the veterans home, and I hope to follow up with pictures as long as that's allowed of the cards that were given. And I'll do a follow up also once I get some of the cards that are all being sent. So, what they're doing is, I gave the parameter to the ladies. We decided that we're going to do the A2 size card. I told them what hospitals and other organizations, their criteria: no glitter, no enamel dots, and that kind of thing. And by the end of it, I just said, you know what, use your own discretion. No glitter, because if you're in a hospital and you have to go get an X-ray, the glitter might get in the way. But you can get no shed glitter, and for enamel dots, you certainly can do like Nuvo drops or something like that. So anyhow, so this is another sheet load, and it was done completely different from what I did. Um, I just it just didn't come together the way I wanted it to. I don't know about that blue stripe on the top. When I put it together, to me, it sort of looks like a cross, and I don't want this. No, I mean, not that I'm against religion, but when you're giving to a group, you don't want it to be necessarily religious because you don't know who you're giving it to. So again, oh, now you can see. So this was the May 2022 sheet load of cards. I wrote based on because this was very loosely based on the sheet load of cards. She had an extra layer of cardstock. I don't know that she put down that blue base or a base. I think she did. Um, the measurements were totally different, but that's okay. After I cut out that red stripe, there's three pieces, components to the card after I cut out this pattern paper. Doesn't that remind you of Bath and Body Works packaging, that blue paper? Um, so obviously you can see I printed this out on 8.5 by 11 sheets, and that was okay. Usually use 12 by 12 or 6 by 6, but and my printer doesn't print edge to edge. If it does, I haven't figured it out. So anyhow, I'm cutting all these up, and then there was this one paper, this one with the fireworks on it. It was like the last piece that I decided to cut up, and I just didn't feel like it matched with everything else. Everything else was bright blue and bright red, and this is sort of a toned down. They're all, this looks really I don't mean sketchy. Sketcherly, what's the word? Watercolorish? And the color just doesn't go. But I said, you know what? I'm going to use it. So I cut all these things out, all these papers. I'm going to do 8 at a time here. And again, I'm just dealing my deck of cards. And as I start gluing it down or thinking what will match, I pull out that firework paper. It just doesn't go. I tried. It just didn't work for me. So that's okay. No harm, no foul. I haven't glued anything down. I do use the scraps, though. I do use them later on. So I just turn this all over, use my ATG. For the measurements, you're going to have to go to the sheetload of cards. Like I said, I'll put the months that I used in the description box. So go to Call Me Crafty Al's YouTube channel. She has a playlist, or I guess you can just search for like May 2022. And she does sort of a release, and then she does the debut of the recipe, for lack of a better word. And then she's got designers. I was on the design team. That's why I'm so crazy about this. It was such a great idea. I had stepped down from the design team just because I had other commitments, but I still make sheetload of cards from time to time. In fact, I enjoy making cards and I enjoy sending cards. Primarily, I will do thank you cards to include in Etsy orders to thank the customers for supporting my little Etsy shop. What about you? Don't you like to make cards? Do you like to receive cards? I mean, everybody likes to get a card. It's so much better than getting a bill in the mail, and especially a handmade card. I made my mother-in-law a handmade card back when I first started dating her son, my husband, and it is sitting on her windowsill. It has been sitting there for years. It has seen better days, but it's something she likes looking at, and it's nice to see that something that was handmade that I made, she appreciates and likes to look at. And I guess that's what the joy of hand making cards is all about. Oh, so I decided with these last 8 cards to use some of the cut aparts that were on in the collection. Some were appropriate, some weren't. I mean, not that they were inappropriate, but they just didn't work. Like there was one that was a picture of a family. Now these that were supposed to be 6 by 6, none of those worked for me. I didn't like anything that they said. I didn't like the design. I couldn't cut them down to work for this. So I was just going to have that sentiment in the top, and then I realized that that plain blue stripe on the right-hand side was going to look lost. So I tried to find something that was long and thin to put down on the paper. So some I balanced the sentiment on the 3 pattern pieces, some I moved to the center. It just depends on the sentiment. And I liked having, so this, I'm trying to peel this red paper. It's self-adhesive, but to be honest, I've had it for so long that it's not really sticky anymore. So I just decided, heck with it. I'm just going to glue it down. But I like having that sentiment on the right-hand side. It balances and makes it look like the plain blue cardstock was intentional. It wasn't, oh, I forgot to put paper down. So almost done. Don't you like the idea of doing this in batches? It goes fast. I mean, this is sped up about 4 times. It took me, I think it was 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes is what I've noticed when I put all of this together, not including the time it took me to print everything out. But all right, so 3 hours total to make 20 cards. Sometimes I'll sit and watch TV. Sometimes I'll listen to the radio. My husband came in 2 or 3 times. If I have a little pause, it's because I'm saying hi or whatever. Okay, so here's my secret weapon to use up the last of the stash. It is this banner punch I have had forever. I think it's Fisker's. And I just take all of these scraps of paper and punch banners. Now, some I will do the whole length of the banner, some I will do short, because when I'm doing these banners, I like to have 3 sizes: the full size, a half size, and just about a third. So I'm just cutting all sorts of different sizes out of here. I will tell you, this is the only, if it wasn't such a useful punch, is it Fisker's? I'm trying to look at one to see, and it doesn't say on there. Oh, here it is. It is Fisker's. All of my punches are square. I have 2 that are, well, no. Most of my punches are like Stampin' Up! And they fit so nice and neat in the drawer. I only allow myself one drawer full of punches because, I live and travel in my RV. I have to limit it. So if I didn't love this punch, it would be gone because it doesn't fit in the drawer with all of the other square punches. The handles always get stuck in the drawer. They don't always. Every once in a while they do. But anyhow, I'm taking all these scraps, punching these banners, and these will go on the inside of the card. Here's the last of the scraps of my cardstock. So I'm just cutting little half pieces here. I usually will arrange these so I can see what I have to work with, but I'm on a mission here. I want to get this done. All right, now I'm going to put the banners. I know there's a corner chopped out of there, but I'm going to cover it, so it's no big deal. I have to cut that one down. So there we go. Big banner, medium-sized banner, and then a little banner usually in the middle, but not necessarily. So I will speed this up. Let's finish this, and then I will show you the cards. Oh, wait, I have to finish some of these. All right, so there is that one that's a really busy one, and I thought just to tone down that I took the sentiment that says 4th of July, did a happy on it, and put it on vellum. It sort of softens it up and has that sentiment, the happy 4th of July, showing just a little bit more than it would. It still is not my favorite card because it's a little busy, but oh well, it's brightly colored and it's 4th of July. Why not? I liked everything, so I only had printed out three of those, so I had to print an extra one. And then I had a couple extra little pieces that I wanted to put on the card. I felt like this one needed just something else. I'm fussy cutting this. What is that? Windmill? All right, I'm missing the word. But I'm using stars now. I know that word. So I'll put those down at the bottom, or sort of at the bottom. And then I'm looking through, seeing if I have anything else. And I'm just going to put these out. And then I will show you one of each card in detail. I'm so happy how these cards came together, and I'm sure the residents are going to like them. I can't wait to see the other cards that the other gals that are helping me out, how they did. And I hope you found some inspiration that will get you to grab your papers and make cards for someone else in your community. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.